So SpaceX has just pulled off the biggest IPO in history, 75 billion raised and a 2.6 trillion dollar market cap. Pretty impressive. And now it's already down about 23% from its all-time high, down significantly. And history says this is just the beginning. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's jump into it in this video. Make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I appreciate you guys being here. Stay with me because the data here is generally alarming for anyone holding the stock, and you want to be prepared to see what is going to happen. So today we're breaking down SpaceX stock. The ticker is SPCX, and what historical IPO data tells us about where this thing is actually headed, potentially, right? None of this is financial advice whatsoever, so please do with this information as you wish. Whether you bought in, you're thinking about buying the dip, or you're just watching from the sidelines, this video is likely for you. So let's set the scene right now. SpaceX debuted on June 12th at an IPO price of about $135 per share. On day one, it did exactly what big IPOs normally do. It popped. The stock closed about 19% higher on the first trading day, and right in line with the historical average of going back into about 1980. 4 days later, it hit an all-time high of $202, and that's a 50% move above the IPO price. So the market cap nearly $2.6 trillion. For reference, that makes it one of the most valuable companies on earth basically overnight. Absolutely insane. Everybody was stoked about this. Everyone was jumping in on SpaceX, but since then the stock has slid back to about 156 bucks. Now that's a 23% drop from its peak in less than 2 weeks. I'm going to throw the chart up in here for you guys so you can see what's going on. So you can take a look at that. See, this is where we started, basically back on the 12th, pumped up all the way up here. And it hit, like I said, around that 225 mark, then significantly has dropped back down to basically IPO price. I just drew a straight line from that price to the price today is just a little bit above that. So we're just basically sitting just above where it started. So the median price target from 8 analysts sits at about $238.50, applying over a 50% upside opportunity from here. And this is what Wall Street's basically saying. So let's take a look at some of the facts here. The 15 largest US IPOs, I'm going to read some of this. I have notes down here, guys. The 15 largest US IPOs by market cap since 2006. We're talking household names such as Meta, Uber, Airbnb, Coinbase, Rivian, Robinhood, Snowflake, the biggest public debuts of the last 2 decades. So here's what happened to them after the first year of trading. On average, these stocks dropped about 50% from their IPO price at some point during year one. That's a max drawdown. And at the end of year one, the average stock was still down about 33% from the IPO price. Now, some specific examples, Rivian itself fell about 80% at its worst. Robinhood dropped about 80%. Coinbase was down about 55%. Even Meta, one of the biggest companies, one of the strongest companies ever built, it fell 54% from its IPO price that first year. And we see this in crypto all the time. I run a crypto channel as well. My name over there is Crypto Foxy. And we see this all the time. We see new companies come out, they emerge, the hype, they draw so much attention. They absolutely skyrocket when they launch. Skyrocket, yeah. And then subsequently fall back down even below the price at entry. So what does that really mean for SpaceX? Where are we headed here? So if it tracks this historical average, that we could see the stock fall to around $67.50 at its lowest point. Now that's a 50% drop from the $135 IPO. Absolutely insane. Even by the end of the year, shares could be sitting potentially around the $90 figure. And you know what, guys? Sounds very, very plausible to me because just where the financial status of everything is right now. The world's just kind of trying to figure out where it sits and how the financial system looks now, because things have changed drastically. Oh, that's a new word. Drastically in the last couple of years. Now, past performance doesn't always guarantee anything, but 15 out of 15 data points painting the same picture, that really sets the tone. It's really hard to ignore that, right? And it gets worse because this is not just a pattern problem. It's a valuation problem. SpaceX generated $19.3 billion in revenue over the past 4 quarters with a market cap of around $2 trillion. So that gives it a price to sales ratio of about 104. So when that sinks in, 104 times sales. For context, Plantier has the highest valuation in the entire S&P 500, trades at about 55 times its sales, as SpaceX is nearly twice as expensive as the most richly valued stock in the index. That is a bit cause for concern. Is it priced too high? Are they thinking that the valuation is overinflated? I mean, that's very plausible. That kind of valuation is extremely difficult to grow into, especially quickly and historically when hyped stocks trade at these multiples. The reversion to earth can be a little bit brutal there, right? When you actually think about it in the valuation that SpaceX is, I mean, there's no doubt that it was the most one of the most hyped IPOs like ever. But when we're taking a look at the way things are evaluated, it just kind of sometimes doesn't really make sense, right? So here's the thing I want you to really think about. The article that I'm looking at here really makes a point that it's easy to miss those 15 big IPOs. They didn't just underperform. They underperformed the S&P 500 by a median of 129 percentage points since going public. So it's very alarming. It's very interesting to see, especially where so much liquidation has come out of other assets, especially the AI market and things like that, to go in. People were taking funds out, getting some dry powder on hand in order to go into the SpaceX IPO launch. And people are starting to take profits now, and the price is dwindling. And just kind of it's really concerning of where it's going to go from here. So in most cases, you would have been better off just buying maybe a boring index fund instead of chasing the IPO excitement, unless you are one of those people who doesn't have a problem selling and taking profits, which I'm good with that. But so it doesn't mean that SpaceX will be a bad investment. So that I'm not saying that whatsoever. I'm just saying right now, potentially could be going lower, and a lot of people could be losing some money here. So let's take, for instance, take Snowflake. It lagged the S&P 500 for about 150 percentage points since 2020 IPO. But investors who were patient and waited for a better entry point, say around mid 2024, they've outperformed the market by more than 20 percentage points since then. So timing definitely matters, especially with large hyped IPOs. Now, here's the bottom line. So SpaceX is a great company, and I think it has a ton of potential. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. It has real technology, real revenue, and generally it has an exciting future, right? And it's behind the most richest person in the world. But at 104 times the sales price, with history suggesting a potential drop to about 67 or $90 by the end of this year, the risk reward right now is a little bit tough to justify. So I'm just kind of putting this out here for you guys to think about. This may not be a good time to make an initial investment. If you're dollar cost averaging down, that's a different story. And you think, there's a long-term play for you, absolutely different story. But the smarter play, if you believe in the long-term story, might be just to wait and let the IPO hype kind of cool off, let the lockup periods expire, let the valuation come down to something more reasonable. And then basically you could have conviction. Now, if you found this video helpful, make sure you guys drop a like. Let me know in the comments down below what you think. Do you think it's worthwhile getting into SpaceX at this point in time, or do you think it's probably smarter waiting? I'm going towards the smarter waiting, unless you're into shorting the market, and that is a totally different story. But thanks so much for tuning in, guys, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.